Now, following India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack perpetrated by Pakistan's ISI on our territory, which left more than 24 people, innocent civilians, innocent tourists dying in our country, dying on our soil. Following India's response to that, Pakistan has a suspended Simla Agreement of 1972 between India and Pakistan. Now, India's response to Pakistan can be reiterated in 5 different points. One is India suspended the very famous Indus Water Treaty. Second was India closed the Atari-Wagah border checkpoints. Third was that India downgraded the diplomatic ties between India and Pakistan, reduced the number of diplomats to just 30 in Pakistan, the official staff of India in Pakistan to just 30. Fourth was the cancellation of SAARC visa exemption scheme for Pakistan. That has been cancelled as to what India is concerned. That has been cancelled by India for Pakistan. Fifth, again important measure, is that the Pakistani military advisor in India, in New Delhi, advisor to Army, Navy Chief, they have been told to exit India at an immediate point. So all these 5 measures have been taken by India in retaliation to the Pahalgam terror attack perpetrated by Pakistan. And in retaliation to what action India has taken against Pakistan, Pakistan in counter to it have closed its airspace for Indian operated and Indian owned aircrafts, even for defense aircrafts. And also what Pakistan has done is they have put Simla Agreement of 1972 into abeyance. Now, the 2 issues of this whole Pahalgam attack and Indus Water Treaty, these 2 issues we have covered in 2 separate lessons, These 2 issues we have covered in 2 separate videos. You can watch that to understand these 2 issues in detail. Today we will be talking about Simla Agreement of 1972. What this agreement is all about, why it is so crucial for bilateral ties between India and Pakistan, what will be the impact of Pakistan suspending 1972 Simla Agreement, and what India would do in future to ensure that such kind of terror incidents does not take place in our territory. This proxy war which Pakistan is perpetrating against India, that is no longer there, and the normalcy between the 2 ties can be ensured in the long term. What can be done by India in future? All these things we'll be trying to discuss in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you are watching Perspective. Now, before we understand about the Simla Agreement of 1972, we have to understand about the 1971 India-Pakistan War. Now, you all know that 1971 India and Pakistan went into a full-fledged war.
मैं एक खतरे के समय बोल रही हूँ। कुछ ही घंटे पहले 3 दिसंबर पाकिस्तान ने हमारे ऊपर एक हमला किया।
And that war was about Bangladesh liberation. Now, India definitely supported Bangladesh, which at that time was known as East Pakistan. Now, the current Pakistan was known as West Pakistan, and the Bangladesh at that time, before 1971, was known as East Pakistan. And East Pakistan was going through all sort of inequalities, was going through all sort of insurgencies and everything. And India was facing the brunt of it, because many of the insurgents from Bangladesh today, and then we call it as East Pakistan, used to come to India, used to come to the northeastern borders of India, West Bengal, all these regions of India, and they were trying to destabilize India of sorts. And India definitely had to intervene. So India intervened. Eventually, it culminated into Bangladesh as a country being formed and Bangladesh being liberated. So 1971 war outcome was that India won the war against Pakistan, Bangladesh got liberated, and Bangladesh as a country was formed in the whole world. After that, Pakistan definitely lost the war, and the war was not just a normal war lost by Pakistan. More than 93,000 soldiers of Pakistan army, they surrendered in front of Indian army. There's a very famous image and video where Pakistani soldiers are putting down their arms and they are officially surrendering against Indian army. And Indian army is taking the surrender, and 93,000 plus prisoners of war, which is the largest in history. So this war eventually culminated into India winning. And the very next year, on 2nd of July 1972, India and Pakistan's premiers, Indian Prime Minister and Pakistan's president, they will meet in Shimla, Himachal Pradesh for an agreement. Now, just remember at that particular time, India was having the upper hand. India had more than 90,000 prisoners of war of Pakistan. India had won the war. Bangladesh has been formed. And in this circumstance, this 1972 Simla Agreement would be taking place. So the then Indian Prime Minister, Srimati Indira Gandhi ji, and the then President of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, they were the one who signed this agreement. Now, what are the key provisions of this agreement? This is what we need to understand. After that, we'll understand the implications of it currently. See, first very important core provision was the formation of line of control, LOC. So the LOC of India-Pakistan border which we see today, this LOC was formulated after 1972. This agreement, Simla Agreement. So while the war was ongoing, there was a ceasefire line which was established. That ceasefire line was renamed as Line of Control by India and Pakistan after this 1972 agreement. And according to this agreement, this LOC was agreed by both the sides and would be respected by both the sides. Now, of course, in future, after several years and decades as well, Pakistan would not agree to this, and Pakistan will always try to cross this LOC, which is why we see Kargil war or Kargil. But in the coming future, in the coming few years, and in the coming few decades, Pakistan will definitely not adhere to it and will try to cross the LOC, try to occupy territories which are beyond the LOC, and they'll not be respecting LOC to any extent possible. That will be there, but LOC was formulated in this 1972 agreement. This is the first very integral important provision. Now, the second major point which they agreed on was bilateral negotiation. So at that time, Pakistan was trying very heavily to internationalize the Kashmir issue. In this agreement, specifically it was written that all the bilateral issues between India and Pakistan would be solved peacefully through dialogue bilaterally, and no international party would be involved. So basically the principle of territorial integrity and sovereignty and equality would be inherently established in this particular agreement and in this particular accord. Now, in the third provision, both the countries agreed to minimize the use of force and restrict the use of force or the threat of use of force and amicably resolve the issues, and to maintain peace and stability in the region, and to respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. So to agree to each other's sovereignty, respect each other's sovereignty, and establish peace and dialogue. That was the third provision, which is somewhat similar to the second provision as well. So in this agreement, we can clearly see that both the parties agreed on peaceful settlement of the diplomatic and bilateral disputes between the countries. And the fourth very integral point was normalization of diplomatic ties. Because of the 1971 war, diplomatic ties between both the countries were not normalized at all and were not normal at all. So 1972 Simla Agreement, it talked about normalization of bilateral ties, resumption of travel, resumption of trade links, and also restoring economic and diplomatic ties between the countries. That is the fourth one. And the last one, which is again one of the most important one, where India would be releasing prisoners of war, 93,000 plus prisoners of war of Pakistan as a goodwill gesture. And it is one of the largest post-war release in the history. 93,000 soldiers of Pakistani army we were releasing and giving it back to Pakistan as a part of this particular agreement. Now, once you have understood all those provisions, determination of LOC, respecting territorial integrity, dialogue, not letting third party intervene, resolving all the issues bilaterally, then respecting each other's sovereignty, peaceful coexistence, and maintaining peace, and giving back the prisoners of war, all these things we discussed in the provisions. Now, if we try to analyze these provisions from India's perspective, you see, in 1972, who was dominant? Definitely India was dominant. Pakistan had lost the war. One more provision in this was that Pakistan would agree, and also one more provision of this particular agreement was that the Pakistan would agree and recognize Bangladesh as a country. And after that, Bangladesh and Pakistan diplomatic ties also started, but Pakistan would recognize Bangladesh as a country. One more part of this agreement was this. Now, what I was discussing with you was that in this agreement, Pakistan had lost the war. Bangladesh has been created, which was East Pakistan. So Bangladesh has been created. Pakistan has lost the war. 93,000 prisoners of war of Pakistani soldiers are with Indian army. While all this thing is happening, India had a choice. And India definitely at that time had the power to go out and resolve the Kashmir issue properly and in a complete way. India had a power at that particular time where India could have gone to Karachi, India could have gone to Lahore and would have captured Lahore and Karachi. India had that much power at that point of time because Pakistan was actually on their knees. And at that time, when we chose to demarcate LOC, that actually started again more tensions in the future. Because rather than demarcating LOC, we could have simply said that please give us the Pakistan occupied Kashmir region, and Pakistan occupied Kashmir region, once again it is merged with India, the new boundary which will be created by India and Pakistan now will be treated as a formal border, international boundary between two countries. Then the whole issue would have been resolved. This is one criticism which many experts from different quarters, they give against this particular treaty, against this particular agreement. That India could have leveraged its strong position in the negotiation table. But at that time, India showed goodwill. India did not want to humiliate Pakistan even more in the international media, which is why India chose that we will resolve the issues in future bilaterally through peaceful negotiations. That is what India thought at that time. But in hindsight, now if we see, we could have definitely solved the Kashmir issue all at once. If we could have taken this decision and we would have forced Pakistan, and Pakistan would have agreed to us. Because otherwise, those 93,000 prisoners of war, what would Pakistan do? Pakistan was on its knees. Pakistan was not actually having any leverage in that particular situation. But actually speaking, if we see the media at that particular point of time, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came to India for this agreement, he was not at all respected in Pakistan because he lost the war. But when he went back to Pakistan, it was like he lost the war, but he won the agreement. Because in agreement, he just had to recognize the LOC, and LOC is not going to benefit India. LOC is going to benefit Pakistan because the parts at the Pakistani side of the LOC, the parts belongs to India. So India is at loss, not the Pakistan region, because Pakistan would be gaining territory, of course. Which is why in this particular situation, many experts highlight that Pakistan in a way lost the war but won the agreement. Which is why several criticisms can be given for this particular treaty as well. But now, Pakistan has revoked the Simla Agreement altogether. And Pakistan has put the Simla Agreement into abeyance. So what will be the impact of this? We will discuss. See, the definitive impact of it would be on the bilateral ties. Because it was the 1972 Simla Agreement. From then till now, it has been guiding bilateral relations between India and Pakistan. Definitely, Pakistan has not agreed to Simla Agreement at all. They have been time and again violating the ceasefire. They have been violating the peaceful negotiation agreements as well. They have been perpetrating terror on our society, perpetrating terror on our soil. All the things Pakistan have been doing. So actually, they were not following the treaty altogether. But now, since the treaty is in abeyance, Pakistan has formally said that we are not agreeing to the treaty anymore. With this, the treaty comes to an end. If treaty comes to an end, there is no agreement which would guide the relation between India and Pakistan from now onwards. And definitely, who will be at loss? Pakistan will be at loss. Because earlier, India was agreeing to the rules. India as a country, it agrees with a rule-based world order. So we agree to the rules, we were agreeing to the rules, but now since there are no rules altogether, we will also not agree to any of the rules because there are no rules at all. Which is why it gives a leverage to India as well to respond Pakistan adequately in a right way and measure. Also, many experts, they highlight one thing, that because of the 1972 Simla Agreement, the Kashmir issue was bilateral. Now, Pakistan will try to internationalize it, but the counter argument to it is that internationally there is support to India rather than Pakistan. Many of the Gulf countries as well, Muslim-dominated countries as well, they are openly supporting India when it comes to India and Pakistan. US is supporting India. Russia definitely would support India. China, of course, would be anti-India because we have our own issues with China, because there is Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, there is China-occupied Kashmir as well. So China and India, it's having their own issues, which is why China supports Pakistan in United Nations Security Council as well, in United Nations General Assembly as well. China is the one who has been supporting Pakistan, and that too, it's not that they are very good friends with Pakistan and Pakistan is helping them in any way or matter. Just to contain India, they are supporting Pakistan. As several times it has in international diplomatic sense, it is said that US supports India to counter China. So China supports Pakistan to counter India, because India is a direct threat to the hegemony of China in the South Asian region, which is why China is again in fear of India, which is why they are supporting Pakistan. Also, another ramifications which many of the experts are pointing out may be increase in the proxy war perpetrated by Pakistan. But the point is that is actually happening. That is already there. Even when the agreement was there, Pakistan was perpetrating terror on Indian soil. So that is already there. Also, many experts say that it might increase the diplomatic and military tension even further. See, already the military tension are so high, diplomatic tensions are so high that we have reduced the diplomatic personnel. We have increased the military deployment in the LOC region, in and around the LOC region. So already the tensions are so high. Just curtailing the 1972 Simla Agreement won't increase the military tension all of a sudden, because already they are at extreme high points. Also, influence on the multilateral cooperation and bilateral cooperation between India and Pakistan, that negative influence will be there. But my point is already there is a negative influence because of the activities done and undertaken by Pakistan. So which means all the things which we see can go bad after Pakistan resigning and coming back from this particular treaty or agreement. All those bad things are already taking place. So which means Pakistan nullifying the 1972 Simla Agreement holds no substance, no weight at all. Which is why impact on India would be negligible, because already the terror attack which they have been perpetrating on Indian soil, that is negatively impacting India already. And India is taking a very strict counter strategic response to this. So taking or doing away with this 1972 Simla Agreement won't impact India at all. If at all there would be an impact, it would be a negative impact on Pakistan. Because now India won't have any rules to follow, and India would definitely be going for any strategic measure which they deem fit security-wise, diplomatic-wise, and maintaining the world order-wise. Now, several measures which have been suggested for Indian Army and Indian Secured Forces by several experts to adopt. One is the deployment of anti-drone defense system, which many experts are suggesting that the Indian Army could deploy. Also, enhancing the surveillance across the border areas using artificial intelligence, using drone technology, using unmanned aerial vehicles, UAV technologies. Strengthening the counter-infiltration grids, and village communities need to be strengthened, because village areas are the areas where these terrorists would find a shelter, which is why those village communities needs to be strengthened. Army needs to talk to these people, take these people into confidence, and need to get the whereabouts of those terrorists as soon as possible. So that targeted attack undertaken by those terrorists can be eliminated all at once. Electric fencing and all those other different measures are being undertaken by the Indian Army, by the Indian Armed Forces, and definitely we are with our Indian Armed Forces and with the Indian government in counter response for this Pahalgam attack against Pakistan. Now the counter response against Pakistan for this terror attack, we are definitely with the Indian government and with the Indian Armed Forces. But talking about the Simla Agreement of 1972, suspension of it won't have much impact on India. Definitely India and Pakistan's relationship would not be good, would be very sour because of the actions taken by Pakistan. India can't do much in it, and the conflict between India and Pakistan, which is conflicted and inflicted by Pakistan, not India. Conflict has been started by Pakistan altogether. So this conflict between India and Pakistan is definitely very complex one. It's having historical dimensions to it since last 75 years. Is in the way Pakistan was created on the basis of that two-nation theory, that a religion can be a basis of dividing a country into two halves. That reason in itself is very baseless. So if the start is not well, definitely the end won't be well as well. Formation of the Pakistan as a country, that itself is faltered. How the relationship between India and Pakistan cannot be faltered. This is what we need to understand, and which is why definitely action needs to be taken by our country, by our armed forces, to ensure that the people of our country feel safe and secure, and such type of terror attack does not take place in future. Now, what are your views surrounding the Simla Agreement? Now, what are your views around the Simla Agreement and suspension of Simla Agreement and its impact on India and Pakistan and its relationship? Do let me know in the comment section. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. All the very best. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.